ביאור משנה ח', explanation for משנה ח'. משנה זו באה ללמד, this Mishnah comes to teach, שכשעשה נוכרי מלאכה בשבת בשביל עצמו בלבד, when a non-Jew does a job for himself, only for himself, מותר לישראל ליהנות ממנה בשבת. A Jew is allowed to enjoy that מלאכה on Shabbat. אבל אם עשה אותו בשביל ישראל, but if he made this job for a Jew, אף על פי שעשה מעצמו, even though you didn't tell him, he decided to do it for you, אסור לישראל ליהנות בשבת מאותו מלאכה. A Jew is not allowed to enjoy that food on that Shabbat. Let's see. נוכרי שהדליק את הנר. A non-Jew comes into a room, comes into an inn, right? There's many people over there, and he put on the light. לצורך עצמו בשבת. He is allowed to put on the light. He wants to see. So he puts on the light for himself. Okay. The question now, are you allowed to use the light now? So, can you read? Can you read by the light?
I want to read Torah.
That's right.
Next to him.
משתמש לאורו ישראל. You're allowed to use the light. A Jew is allowed to use the light. הואיל ולא הודלק על ידי הנוכרי בשביל ישראל. Since the non-Jew did not light this light for a Jew, אלא בשביל עצמו בלבד, but for himself alone. ואם בשביל ישראל, but if he put on the light for you, for your purposes, אבל אם הדליק הנוכרי את הנר בשביל ישראל, but if he did it for you, אסור לישראל להשתמש לאורו. You're not allowed to use the light. So all those people who come and ask, the non-Jew, put on the light for me, they're not allowed, even if he does. Yeah? He's not allowed. Even if the non-Jew didn't ask you, he did it on his own, you're still not allowed to use it. Because he did it for you. Interesting.
Interesting. Very interesting.
מילה הנוכרי מים. Next case is the non-Jew drew out water מבור שברשות הרבים, from a hole that's in the public domain. והבור רשות היחיד הוא, but the hole itself is a private domain. So he's taking from the private domain and he's putting it on the public domain, right? ונמצא שהוציא מים מרשות היחיד לרשות הרבים. So he took out water from the private domain to the public domain. Why is he doing it? He's watering his sheep. להשקות בהמתו. He's doing it in order to water his animals. משנתנו נקטה דוגמה זו. המשנה chose this example. שכן במקום השקעת הבהמות מוצאים נוכרים וישראלים. Because usually in such a case we share the common wells. So it says after he leaves, there's still water in the trough. The question is, are you allowed now to come with your sheep and drink it? Because he didn't do it for you, he did it for himself, whatever was left.
Yes.
משקה אחריו ישראל. So it says, so the Jew is allowed to water after him. את בהמתו במים האלה, is allowed to give his animals this water. ואין חוששים שמא ירבה הנוכרי לשאוב בשביל ישראל. You're not worried, maybe the non-Jew sees that there's a Jew after him, he's going to draw extra. במה דברים אמורים? It says, when are we talking about? Don't jump to conclusion so quickly. שכשאין אותו נוכרי מכיר לאותו ישראל. When they don't know each other. But if they're neighbors and they know each other and this, the non-Jew for sure is going to take extra water for the Jew because he knows, this guy is the... אבל אם הנוכרי מכירו, but if the non-Jew knows him, אסור לאותו ישראל להשקות אחריו את בהמתו בשבת. The Jew is not allowed to to give drink to his animals on Shabbat. שמא ירבה בשבילו, even if he didn't do extra, because you worried that he's going to do it when he does do extra. ברם, but the example of the candle, it's not a problem. Why the example in the candle? שאין בו אפשרות להרבות ולמעט. Once you put on the light, that's it. It's not you can put more light or less light. Exactly.
For me or for you.
שנר לאחד, נר למאה. Because one candle for one person is the same candle for 100 people. הואיל ועשה הנוכרי בשביל עצמו, since the non-Jew did it for himself, נהנה אחריו ישראל בשבת. The Jew is allowed to get enjoyment on Shabbat, ואף על פי שהוא מכירו, even though he recognizes him. Ve'im b'shvil Israel, but if he did it for the Jew, he came into the room and he saw the Jew sitting in darkness, he put on the light for him. אבל אם הנוכרי מילא מים בשביל להשקות את בהמתו של ישראל, if he did it in order to water the animals of a Jew, אסור לישראל להשתמש בהם. The Jew is not allowed to use them. Next case. עשה נוכרי כבש לירד בו. When they used to come from on ships at that time, they used to build on the ship. They used to build quickly. They take some wood and they put a ramp to go down from the ship for the people and the animals. So they will build it quickly, 2 minutes. So our case is, let's make the case easy, because the question is, we're going to see the case is there's Rabbi Hanan ben Zakkai. There's sages are coming over. So if the sages are coming over on Shabbat, and they land on port, they kanut makom shvut. They're not allowed to move from the place they are because of, it says that you bought the place that you are, but you're not allowed to go out of that area. So they're not allowed to go down from the sea into land. They will not be allowed to if they came on Shabbat. Yeah, but they didn't come on Shabbat. They came just before Shabbat. In other words, it was still Friday. But until they built it, it was already Shabbat. That's the case. Asa nochi keves lired bo. A non-Jew made a ramp to go down in it. Ke'en gesher meshupash yoredim min asfina levasha. It's a ramp that you go from the boat to dry land. Yored acharav Israel. A Jew is allowed to go after him. Ve'af zed dino kener. This is also like Kezewi. Once he did it for himself, that's it. He did it for everybody else. Even if the non-Jew recognizes him, he needs to go down. Doesn't matter. He builds for 1, he builds for 100. The same thing. But if he doesn't do it for himself, he doesn't need to go down. It's the sailor that's on the ship. He's doing it for the passengers. And all the passengers are Jewish. Now it's a problem. אם אנוכי עשה את הכבש בשביל ישראל, אסור לישראל לרדת בו. The Jews are not allowed to go down. מעשה ברבן גמליאל וזקנים שהיו באים בספינה. So this is the case. Rabban Gamliel and the elders came with a boat, בספינה, on Shabbat. ועשה נוכרי כבש לירד בו. And a non-Jew made the ramp to go down in it. מן הספינה ליבשה. וירדו בו באותו כבש. And we saw that the sages used the ramp. רבן גמליאל וזקנים. לאחר שירד בו הגוי. After the goy came down in it. But like I said, it's a problem if it came on Shabbat. So, but Tosefta Mevuar, in the Tosefta it explains, שהספינה הגיעה לנמל בערב שבת. We have to say that this boat came before Shabbat. קודם חשיכה, before it was dark. שכן ספינה באה בים, because if the boat came on Shabbat, אין יוצאים בשבת מתוכה ליבשה, אלא אם כן הייתה בתוך התחום. You're not allowed to go from the ship onto the land unless it's within תחום Shabbat, whatever, 2,000 amars, whatever the תחום is. עד שלא חשכה, שכל הבא מחוץ לתחום ביום השבת, אינו רשאי לזוז מקומו. In other words, they will be stuck on the boat for the entire Shabbat, they can only come down the next day. But in our case, they came before Shabbat.